For the past month, we've been looking at the various one another statements in the Bible. Jesus and the apostles of the early church gave us a lot of instruction. Well, actually, they gave it to the early church, but those instructions were also for us. Gave us a lot of instructions on how we should relate to one another. If you think about it, it's really a shame that these instructions even had to be given in the first place. When we hear most of the one another statements, we think, well, duh. I mean, who doesn't want to be treated with love? Who doesn't want to be treated with respect? Who doesn't want people to serve them? Who doesn't want, these are all things that make common sense. But the fact that they had to state them tells us that the early church struggled with the same kinds of things that we struggle with. Even though we've given our lives to Christ, how many of you know we still have a human nature living inside of us? And that human nature keeps trying to be resurrected or sticking its head up and saying, hey, I'm still here, remember me? It's kind of like those pesky weeds in your garden. How many gardeners do we have here? You go out there and you spend all day getting the weeds out of the garden, and you stand back and you admire your work, and you go out the next morning, and there's weeds again. They refuse to die. Our Christian life is kind of like that. Every day we've got to go back and we have to say, okay, what weeds do I have growing today? And I don't know about you, my garden sometimes, I can pick them in the morning to be there in the afternoon. My life is also the same way. I can clean my life up in the morning, and halfway through the day I realize, you know what, there's some weeds sticking their heads up again that I need to get rid of. And I think that's why Jesus said in Luke 23, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves, take up their crosses daily, and follow me. He didn't say it's a one-time thing. We have to daily put ourselves on the cross, crucify that flesh, and say, today I will act like Jesus. Today I will treat people the way that Jesus wants me to treat them. Today I won't give in to those desires of the flesh. That's why the apostles spent so much time in their writings, reminding the early believers what a true Christian looks like. That's why we're spending a couple months looking at it. We need to remind ourselves that we've got to put the flesh under the power of the cross. Now, as I've been studying this series for myself, I keep noticing how all these one another commands work together. You really can't pick and choose which ones you want. It's kind of like the Ten Commandments. Well, I'm doing really good in those two, so I'm okay. No, it's all of them. We do our best to follow all of them. And with these one another statements, we can't just say, well, I like that one, so I'm going to do that one. I don't like that one, so now, or I don't have the gift for that one. And, some of these are also spiritual gifts. Serving is a spiritual gift. But we can't say, I don't have the spiritual gift of serving, so that leaves me off the hook. I don't have to serve each other, because we're all supposed to serve one another. There are some people that comes naturally. They don't have to think about it. It just flows. But whether or not we have that gift, we are still supposed to serve one another. Now, there's one that's not a spiritual gift, love. So we shouldn't even use that excuse. I don't have the gift of love. That's something we have to just do. These things we do because they're what's required of all believers. But they all work together. That's why I started with love. Love is really the big one. Love one another. If we really love someone, it's not difficult to serve them. If we really love someone, it's not difficult to pray for them. Now, the caveat there and the hard part is, some of those commandments, because part of love is really, really hard, especially when it says love your enemies. That's hard. But it goes beyond that, says love your enemies, and then it says pray for those who mistreat you. So it's hard enough to love them, but part of loving them is to pray for them. So all these go together. We can't do one of the one another's and neglect the rest, because if we're neglecting one, it's affecting the other one another's, and we're really violating all of them. So today, we're going to look at two of one another commands. So just looking at one, we're going to look at two of them today, because I think these two are tied together. Today, we're going to look at the commands to honor one another and submit to one another. So let's look at the first one, honor. Romans 12:10 says, be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Did you notice how Paul tied love and honor together? They go together. If you love, you will honor. The dictionary says that honor is high respect or great esteem. To honor someone means to elevate them above yourself, to think of them more highly than you think of yourself, to let them get the attention and glory and not try to get everyone to look at or listen to you. Now, as I mentioned almost every week in this series so far, the one another statements are specifically dealing with how we relate to one another. Most of them go beyond the family of God. Most of these, in fact, maybe all of them, also we're supposed to treat other people that same way. We're supposed to treat the world that way. But if we can't treat each other the way we're supposed to be treated, how are we ever going to treat the world the way God expects us to treat them? So we need to learn how to relate one to another. The Bible has a lot to say about who we should honor. Revelations 5:12 talks about honoring God. To him be honor and power and glory and praise. 1 Peter 2:17 says honor rulers. That's talking about earthly rulers. Now, the emperor that Peter talked about and commanded people on, he said, honor the emperor. The emperor that he was telling them to honor was not a godly man. They were at that time serving, or under the, not serving under, but they were under the rule of Emperor Nero. If you study Nero, he was one of the most evil rulers to ever rule any country. He was probably on par with Adolf Hitler. He did cruel things to people just because he could. He had the power. He was an evil man. And yet Peter says, honor the emperor, regardless of who is president, governor, mayor, etc. We have a command to honor them. Now, that doesn't mean we have to agree with everything that they say, but we must honor them. 1 Timothy 6:1-2 says, slaves are to honor their masters. Now, that's one for us in America right now. We don't have much slavery going on in America, but I think that goes back, the same thing would apply to employers. Employees are to honor their employers. Okay, but it also, even though it doesn't specifically say it there, employers should also honor their employees. Exodus 20 verse 12 says, children are to honor their parents. 1 Thessalonians 5:12-13 says, believers are to honor their church leaders. And Romans 12:10 says, honor other believers, honor one another, honor others in the faith. When you put all of those commands together, I'm pretty sure what the Bible's trying to tell us is that we should honor everyone. So instead of just making a list, okay, these are the people I have to honor, and if they're not on this list, the Bible's trying to tell us, honor everybody. Everybody is we're going to talk about that. If we try to judge them whether they're worthy of honor, we won't honor some people. We honor them regardless of how worthy we feel they are of honor. No matter what position they have, or no matter what they do, we're to honor them and hold them in higher esteem than we would hold ourselves. Let me share a few examples of how this works. First, we're going to look at a couple of examples from the Bible. Abraham and Lot in Genesis chapter 13. We're not going to go through the whole story, but you can look it up later. Some of you remember the story. Abraham and Lot's servants were fighting over grazing rights in the new land that God had taken them to. To solve the problem, they decided to separate their families and put a little distance between them. One would go one direction, one would go the other. And Abraham said, Lot, you can choose which land you want. I will take whatever's left over. Now, there are several reasons why Abraham should have gotten first choice. First off, he was the oldest. And in those days, some countries, that still means a lot. In America, not so much, but it should. In those days, the culture we're talking about, you honored those who were older. It didn't matter if they were your parents or not. If they were older, they were held in high esteem. So Abraham should have got first pick simply because he was the oldest. Secondly, he was the wealthiest, and he had the largest flocks. So if they're picking grazing land, he should have wanted to say, I've got more animals than you do. We need more pasture than you do. So I'll get first choice. You can take the others. Thirdly, it had been his decision to come to Canaan in the first place. God told him to go. He decided to go, and Lot said, hey, Uncle Abram, can I come with you? He said, sure. But if it wasn't for Abram, they wouldn't have been in the land in the first place. But instead of demanding the honor that he deserved and claiming the land that he wanted, Abraham deferred the honor to Lot. He put Lot above himself and said, "You choose. I'll take the leftovers." Another example from the Bible, Jesus and the disciples in John chapter 13. Now, we talked about this one a few weeks ago. By all practical purposes, it should have been the disciples washing Jesus' feet. He was the one that was in the highest position. He was their master. It wasn't the other way around. But Jesus, well, besides being their master here on earth, Jesus is also God in human form, Emmanuel, God with us. But instead of saying, "You need to honor me by washing my feet," Jesus said, "Let me honor you. Let me wash your feet." Now, let me give you a couple real-life examples. At a reception honoring musician Sir Robert Mayer on his 100th birthday, Lady Diana Cooper, now this is Diana Cooper, not Lady Diana, okay? Lady Diana Cooper, a British socialite, fell into a conversation with a friendly woman who seemed to know her well. Lady Diana's failing eyesight prevented her from recognizing her fellow guest until she noticed the magnificent diamonds that the lady was wearing and realized she was talking to Queen Elizabeth. Overcome with embarrassment, Lady Diana curtsied and stammered, "Ma'am, oh ma'am, I'm so sorry, ma'am. I didn't recognize you without your crown." Queen Elizabeth replied, "This was Sir Robert's evening, and I didn't want to deflect any of the honor that he deserved, so I left my crown behind." Usually we want people to know we're there, don't we? I'm there. People need to know I'm there. Well, maybe you don't, but a lot of people do. She said, "No, this is his night. I'm going to let him get the honor tonight." Booker T. Washington. Shortly after he took over the presidency of Tuskegee Institution in Alabama, Booker was walking in an exclusive section of town when he was stopped by a wealthy white woman. Not knowing the famous Mr. Washington by sight, she asked if he would like to earn a few dollars by chopping wood for her. Because he had no pressing business at the moment, Professor Washington smiled, rolled up his sleeves, and proceeded to do the humble chore that she had requested. When he was finished, he carried the logs into the house and stacked them by the fireplace. A neighbor recognized Mr. Washington and revealed his identity to the lady. The next day, a very embarrassed woman went to see Mr. Washington in his office at the Institute and apologized profusely. "That's perfectly all right, Madam," Booker replied. "Occasionally, I enjoy a little manual labor. Besides, it's always a delight to do something for a friend." I love that statement. It's a delight to do something for a friend. Mr. Washington had never met that lady before she approached him on the street. And by her request, it was obvious that she didn't honor him. But even though they had just met, and she obviously thought she was better than he was, he considered her a friend. At that moment, he made a decision. "You're my friend, and I will do this for you because I've chosen you as a friend, and I will honor the friendship." Have you noticed that it's usually easier to honor someone that you already consider a friend? Or somebody that you already have high respect for? It's easier to honor somebody that you respect or somebody that's a friend than it is to honor an enemy or somebody that you just met. So if we just decide everybody's going to be my friend, it makes it easier to honor. "You're my friend. You're my friend. You're my friend. How can I honor you? You're my friend. I love you. How can I honor you?" It's a decision that we make. It's not based on their credentials or their position. I choose to make everyone my friend. And because they're my friend, I want to honor them. That's why this command to honor one another above ourselves is so important. We can choose to make everyone our friend. And we can choose to honor everyone, regardless of the circumstances. Now, normally we honor people for one of two reasons. First one is their position. But in today's society, we find it even hard to honor a position unless we agree with everything that person does. But we're supposed to honor the title, the position. Second reason we honor people sometimes is because of something they've done. They've done something that is worthy of honor, so we're going to honor them. We have special holidays to honor people for things. Mother's Day, honor our mothers. Father's Day, honor our fathers. Birthdays, is your birthday today, we want to honor you. On those special days, we go out of our way to honor and show appreciation for someone. On those days, we sometimes push the pause button on any conflicts. Okay, there's this argument we've been having now for a couple months, but we're not going to talk about that today. We're going to take a pause. We're going to call a little peace just for today because this is your day. We're going to live at peace for today only. Even if we can't think of much to honor them for, sometimes we say, you know what? I mean, I know people that say, you know what? My dad was a terrible guy. He really did nothing that I'm proud of. But I'm going to call him today and honor him because he gave me birth. You know, that's worthy of honor. We can always find something to honor if we look hard enough. Thing is, too often we're not looking. We're thinking of all the negatives instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to honor them for this one thing or for this because they're my dad. Just because. I'm going to honor them. On their special day, we sometimes give in to something that they want, even though it's not something we would have picked if we could have made the choice, which leads me to the next thing we're talking about today, submit to one another. It's if we honor other people, we are supposed to submit to them. We have a kind of a tradition in our family that when somebody has a birthday, we go out to dinner together. Except on Jacob's birthday, he usually picks a movie instead of dinner. He says, let's just eat a quick dinner here and then we'll go out to a movie together. That's fine. It's his day, so he gets to pick. He picks the movie and we go to the movie. And sometimes he picks a movie that I probably wouldn't have paid to go see if it was just me, but it's his day. So we go and we do it together. We tell the birthday person, okay, it's your day. Where do you want to eat? And wherever they want to go, we say, okay, we'll go there. And it may not be a restaurant that's top of our list. But you know what? It's their day. So we submit our desire to them because we're honoring them. When we honor, we submit, at least for the moment. We give up our rights and our desires for theirs. Most fights and wars are caused because people refuse to submit to one another. Would you agree with that? When neither side refuses to submit, it starts an argument. Sometimes it starts a war. Churches have split. Marriages have been destroyed because neither party is willing to give in to someone else. No, this is the way it's going to be, and either you come on my side or we're separating. We're going separate ways. Unfortunately, most of the time, the things they're fighting over isn't even that big of a deal if you boil it down. We've just made it out to be a big deal because we want to be right. Our being right is the big deal, not the issue that we're fighting over. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21 says, submit to one another out of reverence to Christ. Did you catch that? We submit to one another because we submit to Christ, because we revere Him. And because we revere Him, we submit to other people. The world thinks that submission is a sign of weakness. We equate submission to surrender. We fight long and hard until we're finally convinced that there's no way we can win. And I've either got to give in or I'm going to die, and I'd rather give in than die, so I guess I'll submit. When we surrender, we think it's because we have no other choice. We view surrender or submission as acknowledgement that the other person is stronger than we are. But when we view submission in that way, we're not looking at things the way God looks at them. In God's kingdom, the last are actually first. The weak are actually strong. And the servant is actually the greatest. That's the way God views things. Submission in the biblical sense isn't an act of surrender. It's an act of love. Love for God and love for others. And because I love, I choose to honor. I choose to submit. It's not an act of putting their needs and their desires before our own. It doesn't mean we're wrong. When we surrender to somebody else or submit to somebody else, it doesn't mean we're wrong and they're right. You know what? Usually we're both right. We just have different perspectives. That's what you got to understand. It's not always you're right and I'm wrong. A lot of times, you know what? We're all right. You guys remember the story of the blind men and the elephant? And they're arguing over what an elephant looks like, because all they have is what they can feel. And so they're feeling the elephant, and one is feeling the leg and saying, oh, an elephant is like a tree. It's got this big trunk. It's like a tree. And somebody else is feeling the tail, and he's got a different perspective. It is possible for all of us to be right. And because we submit to them doesn't mean we're wrong. It just means we are submitting, because does it really matter? It may not be my preference, but does it really matter? Our disagreements are more often a result of difference in perspective or preference than they are the difference between right and wrong. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 23 says, don't have anything to do with foolish and stupid arguments. How many would be man or woman enough to admit, I've been involved in some stupid and foolish arguments. At the time I thought they were pretty important, but when I look back now, you know what? That was a pretty dumb thing to argue about. The first fight Mindy and I ever had in our marriage was over a stinking Christmas tree. I didn't like the way she was doing the decorations. She didn't like the way I was doing the lights. Who cares? It's a tree that's going to be throwing the fire even in a couple of weeks. It's not even a permanent tree. Don't have anything to do with foolish and stupid arguments, because they produce quarrels. They don't produce anything good. They just produce quarrels. Submission is a voluntary attitude of giving in and doing what is best for someone else. Submission flows from strength, not weakness. Richard Foster, in his book, Celebration of Discipline, writes this. He says, the obsession to demand that things go the way we want them to is one of the greatest bondages in human society today. People will spend weeks, months, and even years in a perpetual stew because some little thing did not go as they wished. They will fuss and fume. They will get mad about it. They will act as if their very life hangs on the issue. They may even get an ulcer over it. In the discipline of submission, we are released to drop the matter, to forget it. Frankly, most things in life are not nearly so important as we think they are. Our lives will not come to an end if this or that will not happen. I'm going to read that last part again. They're going to put it on the screen for you so you can get this. Most things in life are not nearly so important as we think they are. Our lives will not come to an end if this or that will not happen. It's okay to say amen if you agree. You might just make me preach longer. He goes on to say, Jesus called us to self-denial without self-hatred. To deny yourself doesn't mean you have to hate yourself. You're just denying yourself something that you think you want because it's not important. Self-denial is simply a way of coming to understand that we do not have to have it our way. The kingdom of God is not Burger King. You don't get it your way. It's God's way. It's His kingdom. He gets to set the agenda. It's not my way. Our happiness is not dependent upon getting what we want. We think it is, but our happiness is not dependent on getting what we want. Self-denial does not mean the loss of our identity, as some suppose. Without our identity, we wouldn't even be able to be subject to one another. Did Jesus lose His identity when He set His face towards Golgotha? Did He stop being the Son of God simply because He died on the cross? No. He died on the cross because He did submit and go to the cross. Did Peter lose his identity when he responded to Jesus' cross-bearing command, follow me? No, that's when he actually became alive. Did Paul lose his identity when he committed himself to the one who said, I will show him how much he must suffer for the sake of my name? Because Paul chose to go through with that and to suffer Did he lose his identity? No. The opposite is true. They all found their identity, or found more of their identity, in the act of self-denial. End of quote. So let's look at Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21 again. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Submission to others shows that we love and honor Jesus. As Christ's followers, we are called to be peacemakers. Romans 12:18 says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. There are sometimes it'll be impossible. If it is possible. There are some people who just refuse to get along. They just will not do it. But you should not be the one who is being difficult. You should not be the one who is not giving in. As far as it is possible, if it's possible, as long as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. We honor Christ by honoring and submitting to others. That's one of the ways we show we honor Christ, because we honor and submit to other people. Honor and submission are probably the two hardest one another commands to follow, because they're completely opposite of everything the world teaches us. However, we have a mandate to retrain our minds and to think differently than the world. Romans 12, chapter 2 says, Romans 12, verse 2 says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. See, we always look at what everybody else is doing. God's kingdom doesn't work the way the rest of the world works. We're not supposed to respect only those who are respectable or serve only those who are in a higher position. We're called to do it the God way. Don't conform to the pattern of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You know what? My mind's not finished transforming yet. It's not finished being renewed. It's in the process, and I'm getting better, but there are still things that come up, and I go, wait a minute. Okay, God, I still need a little cleansing here. I need a little change. Can you reprogram that? Let's do a reboot. When our minds have been transformed, we no longer honor someone only if we deem them worthy of honor. We honor them because God asks us to honor them, and we choose to honor them. When our minds have been transformed, we don't submit because we're being forced to submit. We submit because we choose to value them, and we place their wants and their desires above our own. Scripture, the only time we're justified in refusing to submit to someone else is when submitting to them would go against a direct command from God. But even then, we need to do so respectfully and show honor even in our disobedience. A few examples of that. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They were being served the food that the king ate, and some of those foods were on the list of no-nos for the Jewish boys. And so they respectfully said, we can't eat this because to eat this would be dishonoring our God. But they came up with a solution, said, hey, let's get a little test. Allow us to eat only vegetables and water for this period of time. And then see, and if we're not stronger than the other men that are eating that stuff, then, we'll talk about it again. I don't know if they were going to submit then or not, but, let's try this. But they did it with honor. They did it with respect, and God honored that. And after the period of time, just eating vegetables and water, they were stronger and wiser than the other men who gave in. Later on, Daniel in the lion's den, same thing. The king had a decree that was not godly. Daniel denied the decree. He continued to honor God, but he never showed disrespect to the king. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace, same thing. They didn't obey the order because it would be going against God. But they never dishonored the king. Peter and John were told they could no longer preach the gospel. And they said, we're going to have to respectfully disobey this command, because we have a command to preach the gospel. So you do what you must. If you need to put us back in prison, if you want to beat us, whatever you need to do, we will submit to that. We're not going to fight back. But we have to honor the higher power. They did it respectfully. They did it in honor. Paul had many occasions where he honored the authorities, submitted. He never went against God's commands, but he honored those things that weren't there. We must learn to honor and to submit to God, to authorities, and to one another. Now, let me bring this down into the real world. You know, this last year plus, it's tested some of our resolve in some of these areas. Honoring, putting others above ourselves, submitting. It doesn't just affect you. If you think you're alone in this, no. I struggle with this. Pastors struggle with this. This last Sunday night, we didn't have very many show up for youth service. I didn't expect a whole lot to show up because it was Mother's Day, and I knew a lot of the kids would be doing stuff with their mother's stuff, and that's fine. That's fine. But we only had 3 students show up. We had 3 students and 3 leaders. So I went to Isaiah, and I said, let's do something different tonight. I was the one supposed to be speaking anyway. I said, I can talk to them a little bit while we're there, but I said, let's do something different tonight. I said, let's just kind of reward those who are here tonight. Let's go out for ice cream. I'll pay for the ice cream. So we called the parents, got permission. So we went out for ice cream. I'm not going to tell you where. We went out for ice cream. And on the sign outside the restaurant was a sign like you see most places you go. It said, masks required for entry. So we all put our masks on, and we were already wearing masks anyway because we were riding to get in the car. But so we had our masks. We walked into the restaurant. I was the first one to decide what I wanted. And so I ordered my ice cream. And then I'm standing back waiting for everybody else to figure what they want. And my ice cream started melting. So I removed my mask and started licking the ice cream off to keep the ice cream cone from melting. And the manager of the restaurant came up and said, you need to wear your mask in here. And I wanted to say, the rules say that if I'm eating, I can remove my mask. I'm eating. But the Holy Spirit said, that's not a me. So I didn't say that. My second thought was, I'm just going to stand here and I'm going to let this drip all over the floor. And I'm going to show them what happens when they won't let me eat my ice cream in the restaurant. And the Holy Spirit said, That's not me. That's you. Be honest, how many of you ever had thoughts like one of those? So what did I do? I just turned to Isaiah, I put my mask on, I looked at Isaiah, I said, I'm going to go outside and eat my ice cream outside. I said, when everybody's done ordering, let me know and I'll come back in and I'll pay for the ice cream. And that's what I did. I submitted. Not because the rules say, the state rules or city rules or whatever, but because it's their establishment. That was what they wanted. I honored them. See, this is something pastors struggle with, not just you. And if pastors struggle with it, I know you're going to struggle with this. I'm just giving you some examples here. A few weeks ago, there was a pastors' conference. And the organizers of the conference put it very clear in all their publications. We are going to require masks and social distancing for this conference. Pastors were calling and writing nasty emails and saying, this is ridiculous. You're giving in to fear. We don't live by fear. We live by faith. First off, let me say, just because somebody wears a mask doesn't mean they're living in fear. They could, but don't make that judgment call. Some people are wearing masks because they're honoring those in authority. And they're maybe honoring, even though some people may be fearful, they're honoring those other people's feelings and saying, I don't want to make them more fearful, so I will honor them by wearing a mask. But these are pastors saying, this is ridiculous. And then they went on to say, I plan on attending and I will not be wearing a mask, and there's nothing you can do about it. How is that honoring someone? That's not honoring. I mean, if you don't want to go, don't go. But don't demand your way. I've heard people say, yeah, the Bible says to honor. but I refuse to honor such and such. I refuse to honor our governor because he's the devil as far as I'm concerned. Let me tell you, look up what Nero did. Nero was far more evil than Jay Inslee's ever thought of being. Nero made Inslee look like a saint. Now, do I agree with everything Inslee does? No. But he's my governor. And even if I don't agree with something, unless it violates this book, I'll honor. And guess what? This book never says thou shalt not wear a mask. Do I like it? No. But it's a piece of fabric. Is it really that big of a deal? It's a stinking piece of cloth. And while we're fighting over a piece of cloth, the world is dying and going to hell. I'm just sharing my heart. I know some of you guys don't like hearing me talk like this, but this is real, guys. I want to say thank you to most of you here are doing a really, really good job, because I know there's a lot of you that a long time ago would have given this thing up. But we've asked you because we want to honor the authorities, and even our district network officials are instructing us honor because they don't believe that this is anything goes against Scripture. So we've asked you to. You've honored it, even though I know a lot of you would prefer not to. Thank you for honoring the authorities and for honoring your pastor and your board. Thank you. Rules have changed again. If you're fully vaccinated, you're no longer required to wear a mask. And so we've adopted that too. You know what? Personally, I think once you're at your seat, you should be able to remove your mask anyway. I felt that for a long time. That's my personal preference. We get 6 feet between rows, so once you're at your seat, why can't you take your mask off? But that's not what the rules say. I haven't been vaccinated. So if you notice, I was wearing my mask this morning. Some of you aren't. You've been vaccinated. Great. More power to you. For me, and I can't tell you, this is what I've been talking to God, saying, okay, what do I do? Okay, if I do get vaccinated, what do I do with this? And this is what we're asking of our leaders that deal with public. Again, do they have to wear a mask legally? No, not if they're fully vaccinated. But even if I were fully vaccinated, when I'm dealing with public, people coming in and people that I don't know, I'm going to have my mask on. When I'm at my seat, I'm worshiping, I'm going to take my mask off. But if I'm going to be close to somebody face to face, even if I've been vaccinated, because I don't know what their comfort level is, I'm going to submit to them. I'm going to honor them and honor their feelings. So I'm just telling you, that's my take, and that's what we're asking of our leaders that are in public, our greeters and that kind of stuff. Some of them have been fully vaccinated, and they're perfect. They say, yeah, great. If I'm dealing with public, I'll wear it as a way to honor. So I just give those as an example. It's just a perfect opportunity. This sermon came up at this time. It's just like, couldn't give me a better time. I hadn't planned it for this one, but it came up at a perfect time. We're living in a world where we have the perfect opportunity to honor and submit, even when it's not easy. Can we honor? Can we submit? The choice is yours. We can. It's our choice. What will we do? Honor and submit. Doesn't matter. It's not right and wrong. What do they want? What's best for them? I'll put my desires aside. I choose to honor. I choose to submit.